The sun was rising slowly over the quiet village. Birds sang from the trees, and the fresh smell of morning grass filled the air. Ramesh, a young boy of about 19, had already been awake for hours. He was not like many boys of his age who liked to sleep late. Life in the village did not allow that. His family lived in a small mud house with a thatched roof, and every morning he helped his father take the cows to the river and fetch water before going to the fields. Ramesh was used to hard work, but he never complained. He often said to himself, "This is my life, and I must do it with a smile." That morning, after finishing his work, he decided to walk toward the forest side. It was not far, and he enjoyed the peace of that place. The forest was beautiful but also dangerous. There were hidden patches of quicksand that only locals knew about. Elders always warned children never to wander alone, but Ramesh was careful. He knew where it was safe to walk. He enjoyed listening to the sound of leaves moving with the wind, and sometimes he just sat near the big banyan tree, thinking about life. While he was walking slowly, he noticed someone in the distance. At first, he thought it was a villager, maybe someone gathering firewood. But as the person came closer, he saw it was a young girl. She did not look like anyone from the village. Her clothes were different, clean and modern, and she wore a small cap to protect herself from the sun. She looked around with curiosity, like someone who was exploring for the first time. Ramesh felt a little surprised. Visitors hardly came to this part of the forest. He stood still for a moment, just watching. The girl was moving without fear, but he realized she was heading straight toward a dangerous patch of land. He knew that place well. The ground there looked normal, covered with dry leaves, but underneath was quicksand. Many animals had lost their lives in it, and once even a villager had nearly drowned before others pulled him out. Ramesh's heart began to beat fast. He wanted to shout to warn her, but before he could, it was too late. The girl stepped right into the patch, and within seconds, her legs sank into the soft ground. She screamed, her hands waving in the air. "Help! Somebody help me!" Her voice was filled with fear. The more she struggled, the deeper she went. Her knees were already swallowed by the quicksand, and she was sinking slowly. Without thinking twice, Ramesh ran toward her. His mind worked quickly. He remembered what the elders taught him: never jump inside quicksand to save someone. That would only trap both people. Instead, he had to use something long and strong. He looked around and saw a fallen branch from a tree nearby. He picked it up with all his strength, ran to the edge, and pushed it toward her. "Hold this," he shouted. His voice was strong and steady, though inside he was worried. The girl grabbed the branch with both hands, her face pale from fear. Her cap had fallen into the mud, and her hair was messy. "Don't let me go," she cried. "I won't," Ramesh replied firmly. He dug his feet into the hard ground, pulling slowly but strongly. At first, it was difficult because the quicksand held her tightly. She cried in pain, but Ramesh did not stop. He kept encouraging her, "Don't give up. Hold tight. I am here." Finally, after several long minutes, he managed to pull her out. She fell forward onto the grass, breathing heavily, covered with dirt but safe. Ramesh threw the branch aside and quickly helped her sit up. She was shaking, her hands muddy, tears on her cheeks. He gave her his water bottle, which he always carried when going into the forest. "Drink this. You're safe now," he said softly. The girl looked at him with wide eyes. "You saved my life," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but it was full of gratitude. Ramesh smiled a little. "It's all right. You must be careful here. This place is dangerous. Didn't anyone tell you?" She shook her head. "I didn't know. I thought it was just normal ground. Thank you. If you weren't here, she couldn't finish the sentence. He tried to calm her. Don't think about it. You're safe, that's what matters. She looked down at her dirty clothes and laughed nervously. I must look like a mess. Ramesh chuckled. A little, he admitted honestly. But at least you're alive. That's more important. They both laughed lightly, and it broke the tension. For a moment, it felt like they had known each other for a long time, even though they were strangers. Ramesh stood up and offered his hand. Come, I'll take you to a safer path. This forest is not good for wandering alone. She took his hand and stood up, still shaky but feeling more secure with him beside her. As they walked slowly, she began to ask him questions. Do you live here? Yes, Ramesh replied. This is my village. I've lived here since I was born. It's very peaceful, she said. I've never been to a place like this before. He smiled. It is peaceful, yes. But life here is not easy. We work hard for everything. She nodded, but she did not explain why she had come there. She just said, I wanted to see the countryside. I wanted to be away from the noise of the city for a while. Ramesh did not ask more. He was not curious about her background. He simply felt glad he had been there at the right time. They walked together, the girl carefully following his steps. The forest felt less scary now because she had someone guiding her. Ramesh showed her the right path, pointing to the safe spots. He also told her small stories about the forest, how children used to play hide and seek here, how once he found a lost goat near the river, how the elders respected the ancient banyan tree. She listened with great interest, smiling at his simple way of telling stories. When they reached the edge of the forest, the village fields spread out before them, golden under the afternoon sun. The girl stopped and looked around, amazed by the beauty. It's so different from what I know, she said quietly. Everything here feels real. Ramesh looked at her and smiled again. Yes, it is real. Simple but real. For the first time since her accident, she felt calm. She glanced at him with gratitude, and though she did not tell him who she really was, she already knew this moment would stay in her heart forever. And for Ramesh, it was just another act of kindness, something natural for him. He didn't know that the girl he saved was no ordinary visitor, but someone whose life would change his own in ways he could not yet imagine. The next day in the village was calm, the way it usually was. Life followed a natural rhythm, cows being taken to graze, women carrying pots of water from the well, children running barefoot along the dusty lanes. Ramesh had returned to his daily routine, but his mind kept drifting back to the girl he had rescued from Quicksand. He wondered if she had already left or if she was still somewhere nearby. There was something unusual about her that he could not explain. She looked different from everyone he knew, spoke in a way that suggested she had lived in a city, and carried herself with a kind of grace not often seen in his village. Later that morning, as Ramesh carried a basket of vegetables toward the market, he saw her again. She was standing under the shade of a neem tree, looking around with curiosity. She waved when she noticed him, her face lighting up with recognition. He walked toward her, a little surprised but pleased to see her again. You're still here, he said. Yes, she replied with a smile. I thought I should thank you properly. Yesterday everything happened so suddenly, I didn't even ask your name. My name is Ramesh, he said simply. I'm Ananya, she answered, though she did not give her full name. For now, she wanted to remain just a simple girl in his eyes. They walked together toward the small market. Ananya asked many questions about the village. She wanted to know how people lived, how they worked, what they did for fun. Ramesh answered patiently, telling her about farming seasons, festivals, and how children played by the river. She listened with great interest, sometimes laughing at his stories of mischievous goats or stubborn cows. When they reached the market, Ananya looked amazed. It was not like the supermarkets she was used to in the city. Here, People sold vegetables on mats spread on the ground. There were baskets of bright red tomatoes, green chilies, and piles of mangoes giving off a sweet smell. Old women sold hand-woven baskets, while children ran around shouting happily. It was noisy, but it was the kind of noise that felt warm and alive. Ramesh bought a few things for his family and shared roasted peanuts with Ananya. They sat near a roadside tea stall where the owner, an elderly man, made hot tea in small clay cups. Ananya held the cup carefully and took a sip. She closed her eyes and said, "This is the best tea I have ever tasted." Ramesh laughed. "It's just village tea. Maybe it tastes better because the cups are made of clay." "No," she insisted. "It tastes better because it feels real. In the city, everything is rushed. Even tea is made in machines. But here, it feels like someone puts love into making it." Her words made Ramesh smile quietly. He noticed that although she was dressed differently and clearly not from his world, she did not look down upon the village. Instead, she admired the small things he had always taken for granted. As they walked back, Ananya stopped suddenly near a group of children playing with a spinning top. She knelt down and asked if she could try. The children giggled but handed her the top. She tried to spin it but failed, making the children laugh harder. Instead of feeling embarrassed, she laughed with them and asked them to teach her. Ramesh stood nearby, watching the scene with a soft expression. He admired how easily she blended in, how she did not act proud or distant. By the time the sun began to set, they were walking back toward the forest path again. Ananya told Ramesh that she loved spending time in the village. "I feel free here," she admitted. "Nobody cares about what I wear or where I come from. They just talk to me like a normal person." Ramesh looked at her curiously. "Isn't that what you are? A normal person?" She hesitated for a moment, then quickly nodded. "Yes, of course. Just a normal person." But inside, she felt a small weight. She knew she was hiding the truth that she was the only daughter of a billionaire, surrounded in her normal life by luxury, bodyguards, and media attention. Here, with Ramesh, she could finally breathe without pretending to be perfect. That was why she didn't want to reveal her identity yet. The following days became special. Every morning, after finishing his chores, Ramesh found Ananya waiting near the big banyan tree. They walked together, sometimes to the riverbank, sometimes through the green fields. He showed her how farmers planted rice seedlings, how women weaved baskets, and how children fished with simple nets. She listened to everything with bright eyes, as if she was discovering an entirely new world. One afternoon, Ramesh invited her to his home for lunch. She hesitated at first, worried about what his family might think, but he assured her that his mother welcomed all guests. When she arrived, carrying a small packet of sweets she had bought from the market, his mother greeted her warmly. The house was small, with just 2 rooms, but it was filled with love. His younger siblings giggled shyly, peeking at her from behind the door. They all sat on the floor to eat a simple meal of rice, lentils, and vegetables cooked over a clay stove. Ananya found it delicious. She said softly, "I have eaten in the best restaurants, but nothing feels as comforting as this meal." His mother smiled and blessed her, saying she must visit again. That night, when Ananya returned to the small house where she was staying with a distant relative, she lay awake thinking about the day. She thought about how Ramesh's family, despite having so little, shared everything with her without hesitation. She felt something inside her heart shift. It was not pity, but admiration. They lived with honesty, hard work, and kindness, things that money could never truly buy. Meanwhile, Ramesh was also thinking about her. He felt something he could not name, a mixture of happiness and confusion. He had never met a girl like her before. She was different from the village girls, who were shy and quiet. Ananya asked bold questions, laughed openly, and seemed genuinely curious about his life. Still, he wondered why she had come to their village and why she seemed to hide parts of herself. One evening, as they sat by the river watching the reflection of the moon, Ananya asked him a strange question. Do you ever dream of leaving this village, Ramesh? Do you ever wish for a different life? He thought for a while before answering. Sometimes, yes. I wonder what lies beyond these fields and forests. But at the same time, this is my home. My family is here. My roots are here. Even if I dream of more, I cannot forget where I belong. Ananya listened carefully, her heart heavy with unspoken words. She wanted to tell him that she came from a world where money could buy everything except peace. She wanted to tell him that she was not just a visitor, but someone whose life was completely different from his. But she stayed silent. Their bond grew stronger each day, built on simple walks, shared laughter, and small conversations. Yet, in the background, a quiet truth hung between them. Ananya knew that one day he would find out who she really was. And she did not know how he would react. For now, she chose to live each moment as simply as possible. In Ramesh's presence, she was not the daughter of a billionaire. She was just a girl who had been saved from quicksand, finding joy in the smallest things and learning that life's true wealth was not in money, but in genuine connection. And for Ramesh, she was simply Ananya, a girl who had walked into his life unexpectedly, making each day brighter than the one before. The days in the village passed with a gentle rhythm, and for Ramesh, each day felt brighter because of Ananya's presence. He had grown used to seeing her waiting near the banyan tree or walking with him to the fields. She blended into the life of the village in surprising ways. Sometimes she joined children in their games, other times she sat with old women listening to folk tales. But there were also small signs that reminded Ramesh she was not like the others. One afternoon, as they walked through the narrow lanes, a group of villagers noticed the watch on her wrist. It was delicate and clearly expensive. The women whispered among themselves, wondering how a girl visiting the countryside could own such a thing. Some even asked her where she had bought it. Ananya only smiled and said softly, "It was a gift." She avoided explaining more. Ramesh noticed this, but he did not question her. Another time, while they sat near the riverbank, Ananya received a phone call. She quickly stepped aside, speaking in a low voice. Her words were calm, but her face looked tense. Ramesh could hear only small parts, like "I'm fine, don't worry and please don't send anyone yet." When she returned, she tried to act normal, but her eyes betrayed a hidden world of responsibility and pressure. That night, as Ramesh lay on his cot, he thought deeply. Who was this girl really? Why did she hide her truth? But then he told himself it did not matter. She had become his friend, and that was enough. He respected her space and did not want to push her to reveal anything she did not want to share. The village, however, was beginning to talk. People were curious about her background. Some said she was the daughter of a wealthy landowner, others believed she was a city student visiting relatives. A few even joked that she might be a film actress hiding from the world. Every time Ramesh heard these whispers, he stayed quiet. In his heart, he only knew her as Ananya, the girl he had saved from quicksand. One evening, as the two of them walked home after visiting the market, a group of boys teased Ramesh. "Your friend is special, isn't she?" one of them laughed. "Be careful, Ramesh. She is not like us. Don't let your heart get confused." Ramesh forced a smile and ignored them, but their words stayed with him. He did not know why, but he felt a strange fear in his chest. Was it true? Was there a distance between them that could never be crossed? The next day, Ananya visited Ramesh's home again. His younger sister had been sick, and Ananya brought some medicines she said she had picked up from the nearby town. She sat beside the girl, gently feeding her soup and speaking kindly. Ramesh's mother watched with quiet admiration, blessing Ananya under her breath. Ramesh felt his heart warm at the sight. Ananya seemed so natural, so caring, as if she belonged with them. Yet a small voice inside him reminded him that something about her life was different, hidden. Later that afternoon, as they walked together, Ananya grew thoughtful. She asked softly, "Ramesh, do you believe people from very different worlds can understand each other?" He looked at her curiously. "Why do you ask that?" She hesitated, then said, "Because sometimes I feel like I live in two different worlds. One where people only care about money, status, and power. And another where people are simple, honest, and kind, like here in your village. I wonder if those two worlds can ever meet." Ramesh thought for a long moment before replying. "I don't know about worlds. But I know people. If the heart is true, then maybe differences don't matter." Her eyes softened, and for a second, she almost told him the truth. But then she stopped herself. She was afraid that if he discovered her real identity too soon, he would start treating her differently. She did not want to lose the pure friendship she had found with him. But the secret weighed on her. Each time she laughed with him, each time she listened to his stories, she felt a quiet guilt. He shared everything about his life openly, while she kept a wall around her own. The next morning, she decided to spend more time understanding his life. She asked him to show her how to work in the fields. At first, Ramesh laughed. "You will get tired. Farming is not easy." "Teach me," she insisted. So he gave her a small sickle and showed her how to cut grass for the cows. She tried, but her hands were soft, and soon small blisters formed. Still, she refused to give up. She worked beside him, sweating under the sun, wiping her forehead with her scarf. The villagers who passed by looked with surprise. They whispered, "This city girl is working like a farmer's wife." At the end of the day, her hands were sore, but her smile was bright. She told Ramesh, "Now I understand a little of how hard you work every day. You have strength not only in your arms but also in your heart." Her words touched him deeply. Nobody had ever spoken to him like that before. As days turned into weeks, their bond became stronger. Yet the confusion inside Ananya grew heavier. She wanted to stay in this world forever, but she knew it could not last. Back in the city, her father was waiting. He thought she was away for a short break, visiting relatives, but he did not know she was living a simple life in a village with a boy who had saved her. One evening, as they sat under the stars, Ananya grew quiet. Ramesh noticed and asked, "What's troubling you?" She shook her head. "Nothing. Just thinking." "About what?" "About how long this peace will last," she whispered. Ramesh looked at her closely, sensing that there was more behind her words, but again he chose not to press. He believed that when the time was right, she would share her truth. But the truth was already beginning to show itself in small ways. The villagers noticed how sometimes a car from the nearby town dropped off packets for her. They noticed how she avoided certain questions about her family. And slowly, curiosity began to turn into suspicion. One afternoon, when Ramesh was away, a few women approached Ananya directly. They asked her who she really was, where she had come from, and why she was hiding things. She smiled politely and gave short answers, but inside her heart was racing. She knew she could not keep this secret forever. When Ramesh returned later and saw her sitting quietly, he asked, "Did something happen?" She forced a smile. "No, everything is fine." But her eyes told a different story. And though Ramesh did not know it yet, the time for her secret to be revealed was drawing closer. For now, their friendship continued, filled with laughter, walks, and small moments of joy. Yet beneath the surface, a quiet storm was building, and soon both of them would face a truth that would test the bond they had created. The day began like any other in the quiet village, but the air carried a strange tension. Ramesh had woken up early to help his father repair a broken fence near their small field. The cows had been wandering too close to the neighbor's crops, and it was important to fix it quickly. As he worked, his thoughts drifted to Ananya, as they often did. He wondered if she would come by that morning, perhaps with her cheerful laugh and curious questions. Meanwhile, in the small house where Ananya was staying, her phone rang again and again. She had avoided these calls for many days, but this time she picked it up. It was her father's assistant, speaking in a firm voice. "Miss Ananya, your father is very worried. He has been searching for you everywhere. You must come back. He has sent cars to bring you home." Ananya's heart pounded. She had known this moment would come, but she had hoped for more time. She wanted to see Ramesh again before everything changed. She wanted to explain to him, but she feared how he might react. Would he feel betrayed? Would he think she had only played with his trust? These questions filled her mind as she stepped outside, her face pale and troubled. By late afternoon, the village was buzzing with surprise. From the dusty road leading into the village, a line of shiny black cars entered, their engines humming loudly, so different from the bullock carts and bicycles people were used to seeing. Children ran after them, shouting with excitement. Women stepped out of their houses, shading their eyes against the sun, and men stood in silence, whispering to one another. The cars stopped near the open ground by the banyan tree. Bodyguards in dark suits stepped out, scanning the area with sharp eyes. Their polished shoes raised small clouds of dust, a sight that made the villagers stare in wonder. Then, from the middle car, a tall, commanding man emerged. His hair was streaked with gray, his suit perfectly tailored, and his presence immediately announced who he was: a man of wealth and power. It was Ananya's father, the billionaire. Gasps went through the crowd. Everyone in the village knew his name. They had read about him in newspapers and heard about his companies that stretched across cities and countries. But never in their lives had they imagined that such a man would come to their small, forgotten village. Ramesh, standing at a distance, froze. His heart skipped a beat as he saw Ananya step out from one of the cars, dressed differently than he had ever seen her. She wore elegant clothes, her hair tied neatly, and her face carried the weight of belonging to another world. The truth was out. She was not just a visitor, not just a girl wandering through the forest. She was the only daughter of a billionaire, someone far beyond his reach. The villagers began to murmur louder. "So this is who she is," one woman said. "We wondered why she was different. She is the rich man's daughter." Another shook her head, saying, "Poor Ramesh. He didn't know." Ramesh felt the words pierce him. He remembered the moments they had shared walking by the river, laughing at silly stories, eating simple meals together. Were those moments real, or were they just illusions? Did she ever think of him as a true friend, or was it all a game to escape her rich life for a while? Ananya saw him standing there. Her heart ached at the expression on his face, shock mixed with hurt. She walked quickly toward him, but before she could speak, he stepped back. "You lied to me," Ramesh said softly, his voice heavy with disappointment. "I didn't lie," she whispered. "I just didn't tell you everything. I wanted you to know me for who I am, not for what I have." He shook his head, his chest tight. "You should have trusted me. You should have told me the truth." Tears filled her eyes. "I was afraid. Every time people find out who I am, they change. They see my father's money, not me. But you were different, Ramesh. You saw me as just Ananya. That's why I didn't want to spoil it." Their voices carried through the crowd, and everyone watched in silence. Some villagers looked at Ramesh with pity, others with admiration for speaking his heart openly even in front of the powerful billionaire. Her father walked toward them now, his expression unreadable. He placed a hand on Ananya's shoulder. "It's time to go home," he said firmly. Ananya shook her head, her tears falling freely. "Not yet, Papa. Please, just a little longer. The billionaire turned his gaze to Ramesh. So you are the boy who saved my daughter's life. His tone was not harsh, but it carried authority. Ramesh bowed his head respectfully. Yes, sir. But anyone would have done the same. No, the man replied. Not anyone. Many would have been too afraid to risk themselves in quicksand. You showed courage. For that, I will always be grateful. Despite his words of gratitude, Ramesh felt no pride. His heart was heavy with the thought of losing Ananya, of watching her leave with her father and those cars that belonged to a world far beyond his own. The villagers, too, sensed the weight of the moment. Some whispered that Ramesh should be proud a billionaire had spoken to him directly. Others said it was foolish for him to dream of someone so far above his world. Ananya held Ramesh's hand tightly, refusing to let go. Please believe me, she said, her voice breaking. Everything we shared was real. Every laugh, every moment, I meant it all. Ramesh looked at her hand in his, then slowly met her eyes. He wanted to believe her, but the wall between them seemed too high now. He had always known they were different, but now that difference stood like a mountain. Finally, he said softly, I don't doubt your feelings, Ananya. But your world is not my world. And I don't know if I belong in yours. Her tears fell harder. She wanted to tell him that he belonged more than anyone she had ever known in her wealthy circles, that his kindness and honesty meant more than all the money her father had. But before she could speak again, her father gently pulled her away. The cars were waiting. The bodyguards opened the doors, and the villagers stepped back to make way. Ananya turned one last time, her eyes locked on Ramesh's face, silently pleading with him to understand. And then, with the sound of engines starting, the cars rolled away, leaving behind a trail of dust and a silence that felt heavier than words. Ramesh stood there long after they had gone. The banyan tree above him rustled in the evening wind, the same tree where he had first met her, where they had shared so many small moments. Now it felt empty. The villagers slowly returned to their homes, still whispering about what they had witnessed. But for Ramesh, their words no longer mattered. His heart was full of questions, doubts, and memories that would not let him sleep that night. He lay awake, staring at the stars through the cracks in his roof. He thought about Ananya's laughter, her curiosity, the way she had tried to cut grass in the fields despite her soft hands. He thought about the meals they had shared, her kindness to his family, and the way she had spoken about wanting to escape the noise of the city. The village returned to its usual quiet after the shiny cars disappeared, but for Ramesh nothing felt the same. Life moved on, fields needed tending, cows needed feeding, water had to be fetched from the well, but his heart felt heavy. He went about his work silently, avoiding the curious looks of neighbors. Some villagers still whispered about what had happened, shaking their heads, while others patted him on the back, saying he should be proud. But Ramesh himself did not feel proud. He felt only the emptiness of losing a friend who had meant more to him than he had realized. For several days he tried to distract himself by working harder than usual. He rose earlier, stayed in the fields longer, and came home late, too tired to think. But no matter how much he worked, Ananya's face came back to him, her smile when she drank tea from a clay cup, her laughter when she failed to spin a top, her kindness when she fed soup to his little sister. Every memory was like a soft flame that refused to die out. Meanwhile, far away in the city, Ananya sat in her large house with glass windows and golden chandeliers, surrounded by luxury yet feeling lonelier than ever. Her father had welcomed her back with relief but also with strict words. You cannot disappear like that, Ananya, he had said firmly. You are my only daughter. You are the heir to everything I built. You must learn to carry this responsibility. She nodded quietly, but inside she wanted to shout that she was not just an heir or a daughter of wealth, she was a person who wanted to be seen for herself. Every night she thought of Ramesh, the boy who had risked his life to save her, who had shown her a world more real than all the glass walls and golden chandeliers around her. She missed the smell of the earth after rain, the taste of simple food, the sound of laughter in the small village market. Most of all, she missed the peace she felt when she was with him. Days turned into weeks. Ramesh accepted that perhaps he would never see her again. But one morning, as he was leading the cows to the river, he heard the sound of cars approaching. His heart skipped a beat. He told himself not to expect anything, but as the cars stopped near the banyan tree once again, he saw her step out. This time Ananya was not dressed in fine clothes. She wore a simple salwar kameez, her hair tied back casually. Her eyes searched the fields until they found him. She walked quickly, almost running, her sandals kicking up dust. Ramesh stood frozen, unsure of what to do. When she reached him, she stopped, catching her breath. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she said softly, "I had to come back. I couldn't leave things the way they were." Ramesh lowered his gaze. "Why are you here, Ananya? Your world is not mine. You don't need to explain anything." "But I do," she said, her voice firm. "I need you to know that I never lied about my feelings. I may have hidden my name, but every laugh, every word, every moment with you was real. You showed me life in a way no one else ever has. You reminded me what it means to be human, to be simple, to be true. And I can't forget that." Ramesh looked at her then, and in her eyes he saw no pride, no arrogance, only sincerity. Still, he felt unsure. "What do you expect from me, Ananya? Your father is a billionaire. I am just a village boy." At that moment, a voice spoke from behind. It was her father. He had stepped out of the car, dressed simply this time, without bodyguards crowding around him. He walked toward Ramesh with a steady gaze. "I am the father of this girl," the man said. "And yes, I am wealthy. But I am also a father who nearly lost his only child. You saved her life. That act is more valuable to me than all my money." Ramesh bowed slightly, unsure how to respond. The billionaire continued, "At first, I was angry with her for hiding here. But when I saw how she changed, how her eyes shone when she spoke about this village, about you, I realized something. Money gives comfort, but it does not always give peace. You gave her that peace. And for that, I must thank you." The villagers had gathered again, watching the scene unfold. They could hardly believe their ears, hearing the billionaire speak with such humility to a simple farmer's son. Ananya's father placed a hand on Ramesh's shoulder. "I do not measure people by their wealth, young man. I measure them by their character. And you have shown courage, honesty, and kindness. Those are qualities even money cannot buy." Ramesh's eyes filled with emotion. He never expected such words from a man of that stature. But still, doubts lingered in his heart. "Sir, I don't know if I belong in your world." The billionaire smiled gently. "Perhaps it is not about belonging to a world. Perhaps it is about creating a bridge between two worlds. And that is something only people with true hearts can do." Ananya stepped closer, holding Ramesh's hand with quiet determination. "Ramesh, I don't want to live in two separate worlds anymore. I want to live in one world where we both belong. Will you let me?" Her voice was filled with hope and sincerity. For a long moment, Ramesh looked at her, his heart torn between fear and longing. Then, slowly, he nodded. The villagers cheered softly, their faces glowing with pride. They had never imagined such a story would unfold in their small village. A simple boy and a billionaire's daughter, standing together not because of wealth or status, but because of the bond they had built from honesty and kindness. Over the following days, Ananya and her father spent more time in the village. The billionaire walked through the fields, speaking with farmers, learning about their struggles. He even promised to build a new well and improve the school for children. The villagers were amazed. They realized that sometimes even the richest people needed to see the truth of simple life to understand what mattered most. As for Ramesh and Ananya, their friendship grew into something even deeper. They still walked by the river, still laughed at silly jokes, still ate at the tea stall, but now they did it with open hearts, no secrets between them. Ramesh learned to accept that she was more than just the girl he had saved, she was also the girl who had chosen to see him for who he truly was. One evening, as the sun set behind the golden fields, Ramesh looked at her and said, "I once thought your world and mine could never meet. But now I see, it is not about the world, it is about the people. And as long as our hearts are true, we will always find a way." Ananya smiled, her eyes shining with tears of joy. "Yes, Ramesh. That's what I believe too." The story that began with fear in the quicksand ended with hope under the banyan tree. It was not just about a boy saving a girl, or a rich family thanking a poor one. It was about two lives crossing paths and teaching each other the value of honesty, courage, and love that goes beyond money. And in that quiet village, where people still lived simply and the earth still smelled of rain, the tale of Ramesh and Ananya became one that would be told for many years to come, of how a village boy and a billionaire's daughter showed everyone that true wealth is found not in riches, but in the heart.